Hi, I'm Rachel White with the Horizon League, here with Dan McIver, Deputy Athletic Director at Northern Kentucky, who is also the chair of the Horizon League Competition Cabinet. So we're going to talk a little bit with him today about that group and kind of what they do in the league's governance structure. So I guess we'll just start with that. Talk a little bit about what that group focuses on during a typical year.
Well, thanks for having me today, Rachel. In a normal year, which this past year certainly wasn't, but the competition cabinet is really charged with developing the policies, parameters that govern all competition-related matters within the league. We'll review and vote on sport-specific recommendations that come from the head coach peer groups. We're also going to review and approve scheduling parameters that come from most of the time from the head coach peer groups, and then actually reviewing on the draft schedules that the league office puts together, really looking at it from a holistic standpoint. What's fair competition related parameters.
Definitely. And as you mentioned, obviously this past year was nothing like a normal year for the competition cabinet. So kind of how did your work change and what sort of different things were you guys involved in over the past year?
Yeah, it's a lot of what we focused on was figuring out how to compete within a pandemic. And that started with taking guidance from, first of all, the Horizon League Board of Directors down through the council to the Return to Safe Play group. Obviously, a lot of that was based on what the NCAA guidelines and guidance was, which seemed to change quite often. But really, we focused a lot on that. Once we got the guidelines, okay, what kind of schedules can we put together that follows the guidelines, allows our student athletes, coaches to compete during a pandemic and keep everybody safe and provide as meaningful of a regular season and championship experience as possible.
Definitely. And you mentioned in your first answer about the holistic approach. So obviously this group has representatives from all 12 campuses and sort of a variety of roles. So can you just talk a little bit about how that collaboration happens and how you guys are able to come up with one schedule at the end of the day with all those sort of differing views?
Yep. It's important for every institution to have representation on this cabinet. Obviously, it's competition is a main focus for all of our institutions. So the collaboration really starts with during our meetings, making sure everybody's voices are heard. It's really important for people to speak up, give their perspectives on things, because that actually might change how other people are thinking about it. And in the end, we are representing our institutions, and certainly look out for our best interests. But in the end, we really make decisions holistically, and what might be best for Northern Kentucky University might not be best for the whole viewpoint. So, I have to look at it, and each member has to look at it from that way. We might not get ideal for NKU or our institution, but it's the ideal for the league.
Definitely. And this question you can either answer based on this past year or just in general, because you've been doing this for a few years now. But what would you say is the most challenging aspect of being the chair of this committee?
Well, I would say this past year, the challenging part was the ever-changing landscape of COVID. We started in the summer thinking we'd be putting together schedules for the fall, and then things got delayed. And then as the NCAA's guidelines changed, how sports were classified, that changed how schedules would be developed. So it was really, we were doing a lot of work, and at times it just felt like we were spinning our wheels and had to redo a lot of work. So that was challenging this year.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week when we talked to the Return to Safe Play chair, Mike Gilmartin, just about how many things were changing and how you kind of had to throw out what you'd just done and start back over quite a few times.
Yeah.
But back to a more positive note, I know you've been doing this a few years, as we mentioned. So what do you think is the most sort of rewarding thing, or what have you really enjoyed about chairing this group?
Yeah, it's really a couple of things. Getting to know colleagues within the league. We meet quite often, so you get to know colleagues, and then hearing everybody's perspectives on things and getting a better understanding of maybe some of their challenges at their institutions versus challenges we might have, or things like that. So it's really seeing the collaboration, and I think over the years this group has really The members of this group have really embraced their role. And I do think the collaboration has really grown into a really good group of individuals that want to see what's best for this league.
Definitely. Well, going forward, I'm sure that we're all certainly hoping it's not quite as challenging as this past year, but nonetheless, the work of the competition cabinet is still going to be very crucial moving forward. So thank you for all your time serving in that role, and thank you for giving us a little behind the scenes look into the competition cabinet today, Dan.
Thanks for having me.